In area news impacting us this Wednesday morning, January 18th, 2017, Maine's potato industry gathers in Caribou today and tomorrow. The University of Maine Cooperative Extension is hosting the 32nd Annual Maine Potato Conference and Trade Show. That'll be at the Caribou Inn and Convention Center. The conference brings together potato producers, farm workers, and crop advisors for topics such as soil health, agricultural technology, and combating drought. Potatoes are the signature crop here in northern Maine. The state was the 9th largest producer in the U.S. in 2015, when Maine harvested 53,000 acres of spuds. U.S. potato production is dominated, though, by Idaho and Washington State, with other major producers in Wisconsin and North Dakota. Maine SAD 33 board members will be looking for a new superintendent when Fern Desjardins steps down this July. Jade Arden has been the district's part-time superintendent for the past 5 years since her retirement from the full-time superintendent's position. Desjardins said she loved the work every day in education with its many rewards and challenges. She added that her days as a teacher, a principal, and superintendent have all been true blessings in her life. Due to the state's retirement system, though, Desjardins is limited to working 5 years following retirement. School board chair Sandra San Antonio said they have not published anything about an opening position at this time. She said the board is considering whether to continue with a part-time superintendent or if returning to a full-time position is warranted. San Antonio added that another possibility would be to have the superintendent's functions combined with those of another school administrators. Well, they left the White House at 3 o'clock yesterday morning, the Best Western White House Motel, south of Bangor, that is. We are talking about the Pride of Madawaska's Marching Band, the 23-piece musical group that has selected but will entertain at President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration ceremonies. The Pride of Madawaska is one of 12 bands from across the nation that will perform. They will be in concert at the Lincoln Memorial tomorrow, the day before the 45th president is sworn in. Channel X Radio's Mark Stewart caught up with them on the road at the Hampton Inn, at the Best Western White House in Hampton, and spoke with one of the musicians, Zach Epstein.
Since I've never really been out of the state of Maine much, it's going to be a new experience, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And asked if he was just a little bit nervous.
A little bit, but that's with anything, really. A big performance coming up, you still get nervous.
Zach Epstein of Madawaska High School's marching band. The band director, Michael John, says the expense of this trip was 100% on their own dime.
We're the only band in the state of Maine that's performing any events at the inauguration. The itinerary, a lot of sightseeing and rehearsals, performing at Lincoln Memorial Park. We didn't receive any assistance from the Presidential Inauguration Commission, which selected us to play. They were very clear that we had to raise our own funds, and just a lot of people came forward, and we were able to raise over $20,000 to help get us there in less than 2 weeks.
$20,000 in less than 2 weeks. From Bangor, the entourage had a 16-hour bus ride to Washington for tomorrow's Make America Great Welcome concert. That concert will kick off 3 days of events, highlighted by President-elect Donald Trump's swearing in as the 45th President of the United States. That'll be at the U.S. Capitol on Friday. WAGM-TV will continue on the satellite distributor Dish TV. Dish and the Presque Isle-based television station's owner, Gray Television of Atlanta, reached a last-minute agreement in principle to keep their local signals coming from all 100 of its stations in all 54 markets where they have outlets. Monday, Gray Television said Dish customers would be in a blackout for WAGM signals, that is CBS and Fox. The company asked its viewers to contact Dish and protest. Gray says that protest by viewers from coast to coast is what turned the tide and prevented the plug from being yanked. Gray Television added WAGM to its long list of stations within the last 2 years. Last year, WAGM celebrated its 60th anniversary. There was concern that the Super Bowl game next month would be unavailable in Aroostook County to DISH customers. Police in New Brunswick say a 35-year-old man has been charged with threatening the province's premier. RCMP spokesman Paul Green confirmed to our newsroom that they received information about an alleged threat towards Premier Brian Gallant. Green said officers arrested a man from 2nd North River near Salisbury on Tuesday evening. Daniel LeBlanc was charged with uttering threats during a court appearance yesterday afternoon. Green said LeBlanc was remanded into custody until a bail hearing in Moncton Provincial Court this morning. Police would not elaborate on the type of threat that was made, saying that the information would come out during the court process. A Maine woman charged with murder in connection with the death of her infant son has appeared in court for the first time. Police charged 32-year-old Marinda Hopkins of Troy on January 13th with murder in the death of her 7-week-old son, Jackson. She appeared in Belfast courtroom yesterday. WABI-TV reports Hopkins' attorney described the baby's death as a terrible tragedy. Hopkins was ordered to be jailed without bail during the court proceeding. Authorities have not released the cause of the baby's death. The state medical examiner conducted an autopsy on the child. Hopkins lived with Jackson and 2 other sons who are aged 6 and 8. Those children are now staying with relatives. Governor Paul LePage has delivered a blistering rebuke to lawmakers and says a request for proposals will soon unveil new details about his administration's plan to build a new, privately run state psychiatric facility in Bangor. LePage's administration has proposed a new facility for people charged with a crime but found not guilty because of mental illness. Lawmakers want answers on issues why that facility should be outsourced. LePage, in a recent letter to lawmakers, criticized them for politically motivated and often baseless attacks. He stated that the request for proposals should be public sometime this week. The governor said he would attend the next joint meeting of the Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee to defend why Bangor is a better location than Augusta as originally proposed. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cross-country tour will remain in Quebec today with stops in Sherbrooke and Grandy. Trudeau, however, will begin his day by holding a private meeting with Lake Megantic Mayor Jean-Guy Cloutier. The Quebec town on the Aroostook border was rocked by a huge train explosion in July 2013, one that killed 47 people. Trudeau touched on a variety of issues yesterday during his visits to Fredericton and Sherbrooke, Quebec. In Fredericton, he said his government inherited a high degree of mistrust from the previous Conservative government that has left Canadians skeptical about consultations on pipelines and environmental protection. An interest group that represents Maine's paper industry has closed its doors after 50 years. The Maine Pulp and Paper Association announced it would no longer generate its newsletter on Friday. The organization did not have enough resources to keep running. The group was supported by dues from members, which waned in recent years. Members of the trade organization included companies like paper mills and logging contractors. Shrinking membership is reflective of the shifts affecting Maine's paper industry, both a decrease in demand for glossy publishing paper and global competition has chipped away at the state's market share. Mills in several cities have closed, taking more than 2,300 jobs with them in the last 5 years. We continue our series talking with exceptional people who make us look good, feel good, and or sound good. Glenna Johnson Smith became a published author at the age of 90. Before that, she was a school teacher in Easton and Presque Isle. She has been a contributor to Aroostook County's Echo magazine for the 25 years that wonderful publication has existed.
The editor, Kathy Olmsted, she said, why don't you send me some things to publish? And there was something in every Echoes after that. She kept me writing. Old woman has always been kind of a dirty word. People say, oh, you're acting like an old woman. I'm old and I'm a woman, and I don't see anything wrong with being an old woman. So I wrote in defense of it.
But Glenna Johnson Smith was writing long before she turned 90. Back when she was a school teacher, she remembers writing about her boss.
The editor, Kathy Olmsted, she said, why don't you send me some things to... We had a superintendent of schools who was very, very absent-minded. I wrote about him.
And just how absent-minded was this guy?
His wife taught at the high school, and he was superintendent, and one day her car broke down, and she was walking home, and he drove right by her, walked by, waved his hand. He said, I knew I'd seen that woman somewhere. And so I wrote about that. I think everybody should write their own stories, because no two are alike. What's our social history? To me, social history is a more true history. That's what we all are, ordinary people, and we all should write our own stories.
We'll talk more with 96-year-old Glenna Johnson Smith again tomorrow morning at this time. The Canadian dollar is worth 76.47 cents U.S. this morning. That is down 17/100% from yesterday, but the loonie is 2.02 cents higher than it was at the beginning of the new year. The U.S. dollar is worth $1.30.77 Canadian. You've just been uploaded on the X.